Okay, so when you hear the name Brigitte Bardot, you probably think of a French movie icon, right? A total symbol of the 1960s. But what if I told you she's also a serious subject of academic study? No, really. For decades, sociologists, historians, and feminist thinkers have been poring over her, not just as a movie star, but as a massive cultural phenomenon.
So you gotta ask, how on earth does a movie star become a case study for sociologists? How do you go from the silver screen straight into a textbook? That's exactly the question we're gonna dig into.
And look, this is not some new trend. In fact, academics started putting Bardot's image under the microscope way back in the 1970s. They wanted to figure out the secret recipe. How does a person become a global icon?
And here's the core idea. Bardot wasn't just a product of her time. In a lot of ways, she was her time. Her whole image perfectly captured these huge cultural earthquakes happening in post-war France, which makes her this incredibly rich subject for social scientists to unpack.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this all happened. And we have to start with the first major thinker who really decided to tackle the whole Bardot phenomenon, the French philosopher Roland Barthes.
Now, to get what Barthes was saying about Bardot, you first have to get his idea of a myth. For him, a myth isn't like a Greek legend or a fairy tale. It's this powerful cultural machine that takes something specific and man-made, like a celebrity's image, and makes it feel totally natural, universal, and like it was always meant to be. It literally turns a person into a sign.
So, what were the ingredients in this Bardot myth? Well, Barthes and others pointed to a few key things. First, you had this sexuality that was framed as natural, almost childlike, which was the complete opposite of that polished, untouchable Hollywood glamour. Then, she represented this new kind of fun-loving middle-class lifestyle. And get this, even her private life was carefully constructed and basically sold to the public.
And this was no accident, not even close. Sociologists like Edgar Morin argued that the whole cultural industry, we're talking producers like her husband Roger Vadim, magazines, even planned scandals, was working overtime to build Bibi into a kind of secular god, an icon literally manufactured to satisfy the public's deepest desires.
And all this talk of manufacturing leads us straight into the biggest, most intense debate around Bardot. Was she a symbol of female liberation, or was she just a new kind of fantasy, tailor-made for men?
Seriously, this single question has been at the very heart of the feminist analysis of her image for more than 60 years. Was she a rebel, breaking all the rules, or was she actually reinforcing those same old rules, just in a new, sneakier package?
And you can really see the two sides of the argument here. On one hand, you've got the proto-feminist take. She blew up the stuffy rules of society, she seemed to totally own her sexuality, and she rejected the traditional path of just being a white